What is it?
Well, it's called a randomizer, and it's fitted to the guidance systems and operates under a very complex scientific principle called potluck. Now, no one knows where we're going. Not even the Black Guardian.
Not even us.
Hello and welcome to the Randomizer podcast. This is episode 31. I'm Tim.
And I'm Chaz. God, 31.
Yep.
That's us now. We've lost it. We are no longer cool. We're no longer down with the kids.
No longer?
Well, maybe not you, but I feel we were.
Okay.
This is it. We basically have to sit at home now with our pipe and slippers and sort of non-ironically comment on, the wonders of the web planet and how innovative it was for the time.
I see.
Basically, we were able to go on Club 18 to 30s previously. Now, no longer. We were hip. We were now. The kids all thought we were cool.
We had joy, we had fun, we had seasons in the sun.
We did indeed.
I don't think you go straight from age 30 to senescence.
No, you do.
Oh, okay, if you say so. Well, welcome along. Spoilers this time for every episode of Doctor Who, up to and including Legend of the Sea Devils. And not much else, because we haven't done much else. But we will plough on regardless. One thing we did want to talk about was Chaz has been to see some Doctor Who films.
I have, yeah. I recently went to the GFT in Glasgow with David Legg and Izzy and Connor. And we saw Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD and Doctor Who and the Daleks.
Got that in the wrong order.
I did, yeah. On screen. In the big screen, in colour.
I'm very jealous.
It was brilliant, I must admit. I mean, I wasn't very comfortable, but I am getting sort of bigger, and it's an old theatre, but it was just amazing to see the films on screen. Absolutely fantastic. Never seen them on the cinema before, and neither had any of us actually, so that was a real treat. Connor was particularly impressed, and he was talking about the matte paintings, and just saying how in some ways he sort of wishes that attention to detail was still there in some films. I'm
sure you get the digital equivalent.
You do, but I think it's just the skill that's actually put into a matte painting. When you look at old Star Trek, the imagination was really, really impressive sometimes.
There's beautiful photos out there of, I can't remember the artist's name, but the Star Wars original trilogy with its matte paintings. So like the scenes like the big Death Star hangar and so on. And it's a great lost art.
Oh, definitely.
We also recently recorded an episode of Very British Features podcast with our friend Gareth Preston, covering the flip side of Dominic Hyde and the sequel, which was called Another Flip for Dominic. So look out for that on your podcast apps of choice coming up at some point.
It was really enjoyable. It's always nice sort of to, get a bit of a holiday and go and invade someone else's podcast and, mess up their wonderful sort of way they've got it all organised.
Sort of like a school trip or a visit to another school.
Yeah, we're sort of, we're all told to behave ourselves and
we run around behind the bike
like
sheds.
A bunch of bloody hooligans.
Yeah.
We are the Sex Pistols of podcast.
God. Thank you to Gareth for putting up with us again, and look forward to hearing that episode and indeed the rest of the upcoming new season of Very British Features. If you haven't heard it before, it's basically covering the more obscure of British sci-fi, and there's already a season's worth out there to enjoy.
And don't worry, Gareth, we'll pay for the damage.
I'm not sure that counselling is that cheap.
Well.
A man is the sum of his memories, a Time Lord even more so.
Moving on, this is Your Cheating Memory, which is where we've randomly selected an old episode of Doctor Who and gone away and rewatched it to come back with fresh new insights and not at all just the same crap we always say. But last time we were delighted and slightly shocked to pick Deep Breath, Peter Capaldi's first episode. I mean, we have talked about it a few times before, particularly when we talked about Capaldi's era as a whole, so my kind of quick summary was just that I loved Matt Smith so much that Capaldi at first was a tough sell for me, and I have come since to really appreciate him and to see a lot of the cleverness and innovation with his era. And I just wanted to touch on something we have said before, but it's that reading of his era as Sixth Doctor done well, with the kind of alienness and the rudeness and the glimpses of how he sees humans differently to how we'd expect. Because there's a line directly between the jokes of Strax calling Clara boy and Capaldi's lines to Clara like, you look different, have you had a wash, and things like that.
I think it's a great introduction for Capaldi. He really shows immediately what he's wanting to do. Like you say, yes, it's Sixth Doctor done well, and he does it very well. If you look at sort of like the scene with the tramp, where he's sort of, he's trying to work himself out, it's all very manic. And you do actually feel the tramp's sort of nervousness
terror
around him. Yeah,
I mean, that is one scene to point to that I think I struggled with a bit, because he is really scary towards this poor guy.
And you do actually think when you see him in the jacket, he basically mugged the tramp.
Yeah.
You later find out he gave him the watch, so fair enough.
Yeah.
But it's great. And then of course that leads into that scene in the restaurant, which is very funny in itself, because the both of them believe that the other put the ad in the paper.
Well, we said it's like another bit of coupling that Stephen Moffat has written.
Yeah, I mean, anything like that is always there's always a coupling-esque moment to it, but it's also the thing about revealing Clara as, sort of, narcissist, and
she's got that line, nothing is more important than my egomania.
Yeah.
And, it's a glorious line. It reminded me of Zaphod Beeblebrox's line in Hitchhikers, if there's anything out there more important than my ego, I want it caught and shot now.
Absolutely.
But it's a funny line as written, but it's also delivered brilliantly. I think Jenna Louise Coleman pulls that off.
She's great. She really, I think she holds the episode together quite well, with her sort of not really being sure of this new Doctor.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah.
And she sort of pushes back against the kind of moral trial that she's put on by Madame Vastra. Yeah, I mean, sort of more about the episode itself. From my notes was lovely dinosaur, but I'm not flirting. And a really interesting dynamic between the Paternosters and Clara.
Oh, they're wonderful.
I always love him and the Paternoster gang. I mean, I would be so up for them to have like an MCU-style spin-off series if Bad Wolf want to make one. Like, you've got the Victorian crime-fighting team of Lizard, Human and Potato, yes please.
Yeah, absolutely. They're utterly brilliant. And it was very good actually having them in this episode, because it was a sort of...
familiar,
the same way, she delivers the line of "here we go again" the same way the Brigadier did.
Yeah.
So it's like easing this new Doctor in a familiar setting. Again, if you look back at Colin Baker's introduction, there was nothing familiar.
Yeah.
Even the companion was only just
still new, 2
stories old, as it were. So
yeah,
there was nothing to anchor this new Doctor in a lot of ways, whereas in this one there was lots of protection around him, so he was able to, be a bit more manic, maybe, or
well, right up to and including the past Doctor ringing up and going, "No, it's all right, really."
I know, and I know you sort of say it weakened it slightly, but
I've been on a journey with that.
I know.
I think we sort of settled on that being an idea that was unprecedented. It felt like it broke an unwritten rule, but it's done so well.
It is. And I also think it strengthens it, because they're brave enough to think, well, we know the past Doctor is popular, but we think he's strong enough to get over that, as it were. That's my own opinion. But it's like, there's so many facets of this Doctor. You see in this one episode him when he's sleeping, he he's interpreting the dinosaur. That's wonderful. And then when he meets them all on the bridge, and his quizzical and his sort of deduction sort of hones into the robot. The only one who's not sort of shocked or looking at the scene, as it were.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. And then, of course, you do get that hard edge when him and the robot sort of, face off, as it were.
And there's that ambiguity
Of
about
course.
how the robot gets spiked in the
Yeah.
end. But it's a gloriously creepy performance, that
It
Clockwork
really
Man.
is, yeah.
And we introduce Missy and the kind of the afterlife
Yeah.
thing, which is out of context of the rest of the season. I remember the first time I was like, what? I was
know,
totally David
it's
Tennanting
just
it.
mental. And that, more or less, had been set up since the Bells of St. John.
Yeah, with the computer helpline.
Yeah. The other bit that was particularly good was the battle that was going on at the same time as the Doctor and the main robot. The Paternosters and Clara were all being surrounded by other robots, and when they held their breath, they stopped, obviously, but then you get a very, very dark moment when you see Strax put the gun towards his own head.
I missed that the first time until you
Yeah.
pointed it out to me.
And, with the implications, obviously, kill yourself, which, wow, was very dark.
Mashed potato everywhere.
Yeah. But, yeah, for an opener, especially for a new Doctor, it's very dark, but it's a complete antithesis of Matt Smith. Mm-hmm. You get something a bit more fun and jovial. Not that Matt Smith couldn't do the serious, it was just, this was very heavy.
Plenty of humour in it though, and silliness.
Yeah. I don't mean that there wasn't light relief in it, but it
Like
was a
the
lot
restaurant
more,
coupling scene.
yeah, but it was a lot more serious tone than most of the Matt Smiths.
Yeah, brief tangent which spun off from that, which was I was been reading the Target book of Dave the Doctor, which I heartily recommend. It's made me really wish for more prose by Stephen Moffat as well, because the book is so enjoyable, and he adds a whole extra layer on top of the actual story of the Day of the Doctor. But I would love to read Deep Breath written out as a Target book as well, which may or may not come. But the script is so tight, and the performers really bring it to life. But I think it could also just be a very entertaining book.
Oh, absolutely.
Moffat in prose also works.
Very much.
There are no end to the man's talents.
I think it's really nice to see the beginning of this Doctor, and especially as Capaldi reinvented his Doctor every season, and that was the hope for the Colin Baker Doctor, that he would mellow as seasons went on. So it was nice to see that idea come to fruition.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that Colin didn't get to do it on TV, but he's obviously got to do it on Big Finish now. So.
Yeah, who have also Adventures with the Paternosters as well, haven't they?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I haven't heard any, but obviously there's just too much Big Finish for one lifetime.
Yep. They're doing a new series soon.
Really?
It's set in the underground. It's called Mind the Gap.
Okay. Is this a Big Finish filling gaps joke?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, when I give the word, press the button.
The big one?
Yes, maybe it works in conjunction with the others.
Well, let's fire up the randomizer and choose a new episode to watch. You ready?
All right, well, let's try and find out. Now, what could it be?
It's the Faceless Ones.
Oh, wow. Patrick.
Yeah.
And if I'm right, I need to check, but I believe it's on BritBox.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the animation yet. Because when I watched it on my watch through from the beginning, it had not yet been animated. So that's lovely. I'll get to watch the animations. And there are some real episodes
Yeah,
as well.
I think there's episodes 1 and 3 are live, so I've got them. So I would like to see them, properly.
No, I mean, my sort of principle is always to try and make it as close to the real thing as possible. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's
great.
cool. Patrick.
Lovely.
Your report?
We found and destroyed the enemy.
Any complications?
No complications.
It takes me hours of pedaling to power the randomizer up, so while we've got it there, we're going to do a little bit of no complications, which is basically a quick random pick of a story and we think of a moment that brings us some joy, either through a moment of exquisite awfulness or something that's actually good in the episode. This is not about the contrast in our speaking styles.
No, it isn't.
Here goes. Inferno.
Oh,
I've always been fond of this. I'm trying to think of one particular moment.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the eye patch story, of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's difficult. I wouldn't say there's a lot of standouts in the story.
It's just solid.
Yeah, it's a solid story. And also, it was one of those ones that was a Sunday afternoon one because it was a long story, so it was sort of nice for for a Sunday.
It would have definitely been one of the first Pertwees that I saw on home video as well. I think. When was that out? Was it out relatively early on video, or
I don't believe
maybe it
so.
wasn't proper home video?
Yeah.
It's a dodgy, staticky.
Yeah, I think the first Pertwee I saw was actually Spearhead on home video.
Well, that's proper. But I know what my moment is. It's just seeing the TARDIS console not in the TARDIS. Was kind of unique and interesting.
Yeah, that was quite fun.
Yeah, actually. There we go. Let's do another. Logopolis.
Oh, God.
Well, another TARDIS moment springs to mind, the shrinking TARDIS.
Yeah, of course. No, I love Logopolis. I love the cliffhanger to episode 3, the Master and the Doctor shaking hands. I love the Watcher.
The Watcher. He was the Doctor all the time, did you know?
Really?
Yeah.
Who'd have thought? But, the whole bit where the Doctor's going to get arrested at the police box, and then we see the little Barbie doll of Aunt Vanessa.
You know who the actor is? It's Tom Georgeson, I think his name is.
Yeah, he was in Between the Lines,
and
he was in Genesis as well.
Was he?
Yeah.
Was he in Genesis?
Yeah, he's one of the scientists in
okay.
Genesis.
Can't picture him.
Yeah.
Let's do another. The Runaway Bride.
Oh, God.
TARDIS car chase. Spider-Man. So many moments. No, but the TARDIS car chase.
Oh, Jesus.
I'd never seen anything done like that before.
Also, those kids.
Which kids?
The two kids in the back of the car who are watching all this going on.
I've forgotten about that. I don't. That's a little hokey for me.
I like it, but do you know what? Now that RTD's back, I want those two kids.
They're probably about 40 now.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say 40. They'll probably be about 25, 30. But those two kids, I see them as doing a sort of blue box podcast.
We saw this. Yeah.
Or they've had that thing like Amelia, she's been treated. She'd had to go to therapy because she keeps seeing these weird things. But I mean, there's so many good bits. Sarah Parrish as Arachnos is literally an eating the scenery performance. So
lots of fun.
Funny.
Couple more?
Yeah.
Castravalva. Oh, straight after Logopolis.
Wow.
But apparently the Watcher was the Doctor all the time.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, well, the title got me.
Hydrogen in Rush Event 1.
All depends what you've eaten, really. I remember the Zero Room and the box that becomes quite enjoying that.
Yeah. My one takeaway from this, my absolute famous moment, the bit where Adric's in the web and the Master is sort of trying to get through. Adric's blocking him or something. He goes, "You can stop it. I'll break through, you barrier boy." And it was just the delivery is like he's sort of going, "And then we'll go down pub and we'll get 3 pints."
Was Ainley from Yorkshire originally?
I don't know. He probably wasn't, but it was just
I've never noticed
unusual moment. It's a bit of a no complication.
Well, it certainly fits. Yeah. Lovely. Let's do one last one. Planet of Giants, the plug, the sync set.
Jesus,
I love it. It's just
great.
such fun.
It's not a greatly memorable story, but there is some lovely moments like that, and the bit where they find the ant and the huge matches and
it was going to be the first story. Did you know that idea of being shrunk?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty cool. But I'm sort of glad they went with it a bit later because really and truly, if you make that your first story and you're trying to tell a story about someone who travels in space and time,
you're gone wacky straight away.
Yeah,
Yeah, fun times. Lovely. That was no complications, and we will have a further lack of complications in the future.
If you're seen to falter at the first challenge, you may lose everything.
Well, it is challenge time. I have asked Chaz somewhat repeatedly to watch The Mutants, which is the story he's never managed to sit through. So, have you managed, my friend?
I don't know why you're asking me this, because you know I have.
What?
I already told you at the start of the episode.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
What?
It was supposed to be a Pertwee story.
Supposed to be.
Yeah, but it was obviously one of those ones like Mind of Evil or The Demons that, they lost the colour recording. So, I know they've repaired all those and everything, but I only could get hold of the black and white version.
Right.
And, to me, it's very dull. Doctor and Ian are all sort of going around. The sort of, I don't know, you've got ants sort of, moving about, you don't say anything. Then you've got bloody butterflies that are talking and things, and it's like. And then somebody smears a tub of Vaseline on the lens for some reason. It's just weird, dull, and really and truly, I really don't know why you made me watch it.
So, you watched The Mute Ants.
Yeah.
Okay. And the black and white pre-restoration version. I mean, as with previous occasions, I think if you can watch the colour version, you'll be astonished how much it seems to change the fundamental story, the plot, the cast, the settings.
Well, it may change it completely.
Well, it really does, I promise you. So I think you should watch the colour version.
Alright, okay, I'll try and seek it out.
Thank you, pal.
All these corridors look the same.
This is Which Corridor Is This?, which is inspired by the books by Rob Sherman and Toby Haydock, running through corridors, where they are watching every episode of Doctor Who in order and saying nice things about them. So I've been rewatching Doctor Who, and this is actually a momentous occasion, because I had reached the Horns of Nimon, and I'm pretty sure that this was the last Doctor Who that I'd never seen before.
You do.
Thank you. That it's at least that it's possible to see, because obviously missing episodes and ones before I was born and so on. But it's possible I'd seen it, because I definitely have memories of seeing bits of Destiny and City of Death from the same season. But nothing rang any bells when I was watching it, so it could well have been my first time. And I got to say, I really enjoyed it. It's got a terrible reputation, but I had great fun.
Oh God! I mean, there's lots of stories that have terrible reputations, and let's be honest, you would rather watch them than some of the dross that's out there.
But this wasn't a case of sort of so bad it's good or anything like that, or time has healed all wounds, including Time Lash. But it was more. I think it was a strong opening that lost its way a bit. Yeah, I really enjoyed the first. I thought the first episode was tight and witty and exciting and looked good.
I don't actually think it's that bad a story as in terms of plot. I think what makes it sort of infamous is the performances.
Graham Crowden particularly.
But for me, again, that only just makes it so much bloody better.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stories that, can work very well if they're played seriously. And there's some stories where it just really enhances it if you just go with it. And, I think
Yeah, sometimes the problem is that different actors have got different ideas of where on that spectrum they are, and it doesn't always gel. But no, it's fine. I mean, Graham Crowden, I couldn't get over remembering him as Jock in Very Peculiar Practice. And his lovely voice, like just a total abstainer. That's all I could hear half the time. He's fantastic as Soldeed, and wonderful. He does get progressively more and more hammy, but it's just fun.
It's not only a case of eating the scenery. He's got a tablecloth, he's got knife and fork, he has entree, he has flowers at the table, and salt and pepper for the scenery.
But I definitely detect the hand of Douglas Adams at work in various parts. There's a lovely line about, give me your gun and I'll keep an eye on myself. But that's straight out, like, you don't actually need Mr. Dent to lie in front of the bulldozer all day. And there's a sort of very meta joke about, every time I say nothing can go wrong, something goes wrong. Yeah. It's great fun.
And also the guard that comes in, useless scum!
Weakling Scum.
Weakling Scum, sorry. Walks. Romana's brilliant.
Oh, yeah, but she does look like she's dressed up to ride out and kill foxes.
Yes, very much.
It's like proper country aristocrat get up. Yeah.
It's just, it's a joy. You know, it's a real joy. I mean, okay, we all know that City of Death is the best story of this season.
Era, yeah.
Well, that's perceived. But I mean, you've got joy like this, and even Nightmare of Eden to some parts, you know. I think every story in this season has got at least some part of, you know, something you love. I mean, it's a strong opener with Destiny as well. So,
yeah, I would definitely, I think, in balance, prefer this one over Nightmare.
Yeah.
Although I had seen Nightmare before.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's okay. I don't mean it's absolutely brilliant, but I would say that this was the one that ended the season, I don't think it's done that bad. You know? Yeah,
I mean, it wasn't meant to be because Shadow got cancelled, of course. But
of course.
I've got a few sort of specific notes as I watched through the episodes. So, effects in part one really good. There's this corridor between the TARDIS and the ship, which I really liked.
I always remembered that.
And there's this really cool shot down the length of the set of that spaceship where the three sets of sliding doors all close together, and you really, I think they're showing off that this is a big continuous set, and it looks good. It's got a sense of scale. What else? The Skonnon Empire, it seems to be built, however, on very clanky metal flooring, which is a bit of a shame because there's a lot of noise from that. Yeah. We've got Janet Ellis, a very young Janet Ellis.
Yeah, that's right. She's one of the Weakling Scum.
Neither with Weakling Scum. And we didn't get it right last time. It's David Brierley playing K9.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I thought Lila Ward was extraordinarily good when she's angry at the co-pilot when he abandons the Doctor.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's got Weakling Scum and she calls him Despicable Worm. But no, she plays that really brilliantly, that sort of fury at his betrayal, and it's really lovely.
I think Tom Baker and Graham Crowden are sort of, you know, in a battle, not only on screen but off, to sort of see who can up each other.
Leave me a bit of scenery for lunch, Graham.
I do think Graham won this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Tom was a bit over the top at the cliffhanger of part one. Actually, he sort of grabs K9. It's a bit too much, but it's great. So far, tightly paced, decent looking, witty.
Don't we have a moment of every sound effect in the book?
Oh, it's that part two, I think. Yeah. So the TARDIS console sort of explodes, and
bangs.
I think it's the part of the TARDIS that had the sound effects library, because it's like pop, bang, whiz, woo.
Come on, old girl. That's very odd.
Yeah, did they have a Wilhelm scream?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was in there as well. So part two, tumbling TARDIS is cool. He does this thing of spinning the TARDIS at this meteor that's coming out, or comet, and bouncing off it like a cricket ball.
I remember.
So the cricket thing happened before the Fifth Doctor, but there's another very the Nimon power complex, and Romana going, well, that fits, is a very Douglas Adams joke as well.
Yeah.
But the Nimon I thought looked like a prototype bobblehead.
Yeah, you could actually see that, as a piece of...
The proportions.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I didn't think it was that terrible. I quite like it, the sort of strangely plastic horns. Yeah. I wonder if they're like biomechanoid creatures or something.
I suppose they are. And of course, the reappearance in the God Complex, I can't remember if it was an actual Nimon, but the Nimon do get
referenced. Yeah.
Going back to that bit with the cricket ball thing, John Nathan Turner, of course, was the production unit manager on this season, because the next season was his. I wonder if he took that idea and reused it in
I think the Doctor has all these traits that are what you would call quintessentially English, and the love of cricket, which fits right in there. But I know you're aware of Douglas Adams' work, but you know the story of Doctor Who and the Cricket Men.
Oh, yeah.
This was this abandoned idea that became part of the third Hitchhiker's novel about cricket being this shunned form of warfare that only the Earth was tasteless enough to turn into a sport.
Yeah.
And I think it was rejected as too silly. So the Nimon complex, it looks to my eye a bit time-lashy with the chucking people into it as punishment. And later on, I think Tom agrees, because he's sticking tinsel in there, tinsel stars. God. So, it's Time-Lash needs tinsel. I'd shout out to our friends at All of Time and Space.
Time-Lash needs tinsel. Maybe that could be a Doctor in Distress appeal.
Or have you got spare tinsel sitting around the attic that you don't need? Please send it.
Time-Lash needs tinsel.
Do you remember a book back in our childhoods called I think it was called the Doctor Who Technical Manual or Handbook?
Yes, I do.
It had, I think, the Skonnos blaster pistol as one of the things in it.
Yeah.
I remember the sort of two barrels on top of each other.
I think it did. I also think... Do you remember that Doctor Who role-playing game?
Yes, the FASA one.
The FASA one, yeah. Because there was lots of technical details in that, and I think it might have been in there as well, but I could be completely wrong. Ironically, I don't have any love of gaming, and I know you're a big gamer in that set. I'm board gamer, not,
Except when I'm not there and you do play board games with me.
Yeah. But I only play the normal ones.
The normal ones.
But I did own the Doctor Who role-playing game, and I was at school and I was desperate to and play nobody. So I'm getting my revenge now.
I see.
What it is.
It's that trauma put you off board games for life, did it?
Nobody in school wanted to do it. They all said that, I was invoking satanic rituals.
Yeah, plus you're 35 and why are you here anyway?
Yeah.
I just would like seeing the Skonnos Blaster. It brought that memory of that book, because I hadn't loved that book. Again, it sort of evokes that era where you didn't have much stuff to go on.
So you did really sort of over-invest in a lot of these things.
Well, it was like an exotic glimpse into the world of the stories that you couldn't and maybe never would see.
Absolutely.
I remember it had like the TARDIS toolkit as well. Those things. Do you remember in the TV movie the
that
Doctor?
Toolkit is
it's reproduced very faithfully. Yeah, and I think actually somebody grace whacks the Doctor around the head.
The drone clamp.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever need to clamp down your drones.
And there was another thing.
I can't remember either. Yeah, they all had funky names.
Yeah.
Too. Happy days. Happy days.
Out now.
Yeah. eBay?
There's a PDF of it somewhere.
Yeah, I bet there is. Yeah. So, Tom has the line, "Take me to your leader" again, but he pulls it off a little less gloriously than he managed in Face of Evil. But I do love the design, the scenic design of this story. Soldeed's office, it looks great with those big sort of shapes on the walls. It's just, and it's a Graham story. That's who the designer was.
Soldeed's costume as well was just absolutely barking.
You know what it reminds me of a little bit? Probably not if I looked at them side by side. The episode of Blake 7 called Weapon. This character, what's he called now, that character? But he's the kind of weapon designer, and he's got this kind of ornate...
I think it's... Stephen Dacre?
Maybe. I don't remember.
But it reminds me more of Tisha Adams.
Well, this...
the sleeky, know, and then the huge collar,
He's with his kind of servant stroke. I think she's some sort of slave that he's freed.
Yeah.
And I remember that actress name, she's Candice Glendinning. And she's in a kind of similar kind of quite ornate, because they're walking about this rubble-strewn wasteland in these ornate costumes. It's very striking.
I love the skull cap.
Yeah. Anyway, no, I don't know if I looked at those side by side, they might not look at all alike. But so on to part 3. There's a beautiful Douglas Adams-y line, which Romana just wryly remarks to the Doctor that when he says that I don't think he knew what he was talking about, what I was talking about, and Romana wryly remarks that people often don't know what you're talking about. It's just, I was like, ouch, feel the burn. That was like brilliant. Soldeed confronts a bunch of Scunners from Skonnos and has this meeting with them, and I was sure at one point they were hungry because they were chanting scones, scones, scones. Seth, who's the kind of lead Nethian, is rocking the Sheety Gatwa open shirt look, I noticed. And Janet Ellis certainly seems to admire him, so it obviously works. But she chooses, there's this moment which I thought, that is not on. So they're hiding from the Nimon or Soldeed, and they all sort of scatter around the room, and Janet Ellis hides in plain sight in front of this bank of computers, and Tom walks past her and slaps her on the behind to kind of prompt her to move on. It's like, that has got to be improv, and that is just not right.
Not. Although I do have a soft spot for Janet Ellis.
Yeah, but not that soft spot.
No, maybe not.
So towards the end of part 3, you've got a lovely bit of business with a teaspoon that Tom's sort of waving around as if it were the sonic screwdriver, and then he briefs Romana on her job, and then she takes the teaspoon purposefully off to go and do the job.
Is this the talking spoon?
It's like they didn't have a conch. But there is then a classic case of poor communication in the workplace leading to an accident, because Romana pops into the capsule just before the Doctor sends it to Krynoth. I mean, that was like comedy of errors, but I think they did quite a good job of something that could have seemed very silly, and they
could have made an advert. Have you been
accidentally
injured in a time accident?
Transmatted to another planet? And meanwhile, poor Soldeed just can't get the staff. But sorry, part 4. My overriding thought was, well, the Nimons clearly have no peripheral vision, because Romana and Sesam are hiding in absolute plain sight, and they walk right past them. But I had thought Nimon was plural already, so Nimons sounds weird to my ear.
Nimon. The yeah. Whatever.
Nimons.
Nimon.
Yeah. And I had a complete false memory that Dave Prowse had played one of them, but he didn't. And I'm mixing up, because did he play a Minotaur in a Pat Troughton or something? Is that where Graham Crowden finally finishes off the scenery that he's been nibbling at? Now he's taking huge bites in part 4. But the oddest moment is this weird gurning reaction when 3 Nimons appear, and I guess it's meant to convey the collapse of his worldview, but he's kind of more using it as the collapse of all his facial muscles. But I still great fun as Soldeed.
He's having a stroke at that point.
Nice. The character feels a bit kind of underfinished, and it fizzles a little bit in the last episodes, I think, but I wouldn't change him for the world.
But he still gets the greatest death in Doctor Who, let's be honest.
I don't know. There would be a subtopic to explore, but
maybe nothing in the world can stop me now.
I mean, he's certainly not going to be thirsty with all the milking of it that he does, but, you know. Anyway, it's an odd fish of a story. I definitely enjoyed it a lot. The Nimon are really just kind of lumbering monsters, and they haven't much by way of personality, and there's no kind of face-off with the Doctor, and I think that's maybe it as well, that there's not really a kind of big climactic confrontation with Soldeed or anything like that. The mythology that this show is based on is fun, and you've got Jasonite as a MacGuffin, which is a cute little reference there, but the Doctor alludes right at the end to having been involved in the original myth, which is kind of fun. And then the other thing that struck me was it's a sort of mixture of kind of fascinating and disturbing to see the TARDIS console in bits like that.
Yeah.
The Time Rotor like right out on its side and stuff. So this was the last aired episode. Shadow, of course, got cancelled with the amazing slit scan title sequence, the tunnel and the diamond logo, and also the last of the original arrangement of the theme before it got revamped for Leisure Hive. I think it's my favourite classic title sequence. I do love the Peter Howell version and the Starfield.
The Peter Howell version is very much, it's in my mind a lot, but I grew up with the split scan, like most fans of our age.
Well, I didn't. I was key couple of years younger, so for me it was the title of exotic old Doctor Who from the past.
Yeah, well, it's funny you say that, because David Darlington and Kenny,
our old friend Kenny,
who they sort of more grew up through the end of Tom Baker, Peter Davison era, so they remember that version of it. Whereas I'd sort of been watching sort of what more or less since I could move my head, I think. But
that's since you were 17.
I have great memories of the 80s version, the 80s Doctor Who. Very exciting. I loved it, and I have great memories of all of it. I'm kind of, there's very little Doctor Who I dislike. Even the crap I can find, some glimpse of hope in it. That's all I'll say.
But Peter Howell, if you think about it, is an interesting bit of nominative determinism, because there was that theme that introduced the big screeching howl at the start.
That's a very... I remember
Scary.
the first time I heard that, it was like, whoa!
It's like, it's started.
Cool, you know? In the new title sequence, obviously. But, that diamond logo title sequence... there's just something evocative about it.
Yeah, it's just beautiful, and
Yeah.
the way it was made was such a lovely case of visual effects on a tiny budget.
Yeah,
inspired by the end of 2001, the slit scan technique was used for the huge journey that happens at the end of that film. But I'm not sure where it is. It must be on one of the DVD releases, but it's certainly on YouTube. There's Bernard Lodge, who made it, talks through how he made it.
Yeah,
and shows. And it's the sort of distortion patterns from stretched plastic bags, and
it's really impressive. It's also, I think, responsible for an entire generation's obsession with Skonnos.
There's Shadow to come, of course, but which of the many versions do I watch? I mean, again, the principle being close to what would have been the real thing, but
I think, personally, this is just a personal opinion, on the new Blu-ray release, they have the animated mixed with the live action, and every episode has an ending, a titles and a beginning, which the new animated version, when they've released it as an entire just feature length, which is okay, but this version is the closest I think it'll ever come to being, complete, as it were. So
yeah, well, that sounds like the one for me then.
And there is one bit of it I do remember. I think it's when Chris is cycling, and it sort of pans up into the air and pans down, and it's real, and it is beautiful.
Yeah, that sounds
it's
fun.
a beautiful, edit.
Well, that is my next corridor ahead. Lovely.
I'm looking forward to that one, actually. I'll watch it with you.
Sweet.
Definitely.
It's the end. But the moment has been prepared for.
9 times out of 10.
Thank you for listening. If you would like to get in touch, or if you're one of our past selves and want to tell us it'll all be okay, you can reach us at randomizerpodcast@gmail.com. You can leave us a voice message at anchor.fm/randomizer, or follow us on Twitter at randomizerpod. And in all cases,
that is randomizer with an S, not a Z.
You did that very well.
I did, yeah. I mean, you actually gave me the whole thing to say, because normally you take the S off.
You've been doing all right. I thought.
Thank you. I do
You've earned it.
appreciate that. Thank you.
You get another word next episode.